Undercover Boss buys a van at his own dealership. Could not believe what he hears from a customer behind. Velocity Vans wasn't just a dealership, it was a movement. It began with a single van, a wrench, and a dream. Founded in 2003, the company would go on to help over 120,000 small businesses across the country. People who didn't wear suits but steel-toed boots, aprons, and tool belts. From bakers hustling at 4 a.m. to electricians racing across counties to fix someone's power, Velocity Vans kept America's working class moving. Not with luxury, but with dependability. At the heart of it all was Mateo Alvarez. 58 years old, Latin American. Fair-skinned, short graying hair, tired eyes, and a face creased not from age, but from years of windshields, wind, and grit. The kind of man who didn't smile unless he meant it. But when he did, it gave people hope. He didn't inherit a thing. No college degree, no investor money. Just long, back-breaking hours delivering appliances across Texas in a used van with a cracked windshield and no AC. He slept in the back some nights, legs curled under cardboard boxes, dreaming not of riches, but of a better way to do business. It was in that van, parked behind gas stations and loading docks, where Mateo scribbled his first business plan on napkins. No complicated formulas, just promises. Don't lie. Don't sell junk. Don't treat people like numbers. From a dusty lot in El Paso, he launched Velocity Vans with one used vehicle, a folding chair, and a phone that barely worked. He sold his first van to a local carpenter named Jose, who cried when Mateo offered to deliver it to his home for free. That's who Mateo was, and that's what the company stood for. Over 20 years, that humble lot grew into a 22-location powerhouse, known for reliability, low margins, and a personal touch that made customers feel like family. Mateo didn't care about being the biggest name in the auto world, just the most respected. His reputation, solid as steel. His values, carved in stone. But success has a way of attracting shadows. As Velocity grew, Mateo began to step back, trusting others to carry his mission forward. What he didn't realize was that while he was building empires, others were building loopholes. And while his name became a symbol of honesty across America, behind the curtains, that trust was being sold off, one dirty deal at a time. Because empires don't collapse in a single day. They rot slowly, quietly, from the inside out. And Mateo was about to find out just how far things had fallen, in a place that still bore his name, but no longer honored his legacy. It started with a voicemail. A woman's voice, trembling, weary, and filled with the quiet desperation of someone who'd tried to stay strong for too long. Mr. Alvarez, I'm sorry to bother you. I bought a van from your Fremont location. They told me it'd be $29,000, but the final paperwork said $37,200. I don't understand most of it. They said the charges were standard. I'm a single mom. I needed that van for work, for my deliveries, but now I can't even make the first payment. I feel trapped. Please, I don't know what else to do. Please, help. The message ended. The silence that followed felt heavier than words. Mateo didn't move. He replayed the voicemail. Once, then again, and a third time. By the end of it, he was no longer listening. He was remembering the face of a young woman who'd once stood on the lot in El Paso with nothing but a handwritten list of bakery clients, asking if he could knock $800 off a transit van. He had said yes. Back then, it had meant everything. Now, this. The next day, something else arrived. Not an email, not a complaint filed through legal. Just a simple envelope, slid under his office door in the early hours of morning. No name, no signature. Inside, printed screenshots, an internal email chain, sales reps laughing over inflated fees, jokes about squeezing first-time buyers, mentions of fake warranty costs, and something far worse, a line buried in the middle of the chain, told him the price included mandatory dealer insurance. It's not, but he bought it anyway. Another cash deal, no paperwork, VIN swap pending. Derek said he'd clean it up later. At the bottom of the final page, one handwritten line. This isn't what you built, but it's what it's become. Mateo read those words again and again. Outside, the dealership carried on like any other day. Engines starting, phones ringing, smiles at the front desk. But inside Mateo's office, the world had stopped. He stared at the floor for a long time, unmoving. The hum of the AC unit buzzed above him like static. He didn't say a word to anyone for the rest of the day. The next morning, he didn't come in. No one knew where he went. No calls, no texts. Just an empty chair where the founder used to sit. When he returned 48 hours later, he wasn't the same. Gone was the flannel and leather watch. No company badge. No formal walk through the lot. He walked in alone, quiet, distant, unreadable. And for the first time in years, Mateo Alvarez was watching. But no one at the dealership had any idea just how closely or how much was about to change. Mateo knew how to disappear. He had done it before, on long-distance freight jobs back when no one knew his name. He had done it as a young entrepreneur, blending in with contractors and garage owners while learning what they needed. Now he would do it again, but not to hide. This time, to see. He left the blazer on the hook behind his door, slipped off his watch, a retirement gift from his first full-time mechanic, put on a sun-faded hoodie, a pair of sagging jeans with a ripped hem, and sneakers that had once been white but were now closer to dust gray. For effect, he added a fake knee brace, just enough of a limp to make him look slower, vulnerable, overlooked. The kind of man salesmen talk over, the kind who doesn't fight back. He shaved just enough to look unkempt. Then he borrowed the same beat-up Corolla that had once been their loaner vehicle. Cracked windshield, no AC, pine-scented tree dangling from the mirror. As he approached the Fremont location, the one buried under the most complaints, his heart beat faster, but his expression stayed still. No driver, no parking pass, no announcement. He pulled into the back of the lot and parked between two box trucks. The sun was sharp overhead, bouncing off metal and chrome. He stepped out. The heat hit him instantly, dry, suffocating. He leaned into it, making the limp more obvious. 10 minutes passed. He stood near the entrance, hands folded. No one greeted him. He could see 3 salesmen inside, laughing, scrolling on their phones. One of them noticed him, nudged the other, and nodded in his direction. But still no one moved. Mateo exhaled through his nose. This silence, this neglect, was the first answer he was looking for. Finally, the door opened. A young man in skinny slacks, a tight dress shirt, and over-polished shoes strutted out. Chewing gum, sunglasses pushed halfway up his slicked hair. He held an iPad and wore a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Yo, boss man, you lost or looking for something specific?" the salesman asked with a forced grin. Mateo offered a soft, almost apologetic smile. "Yeah, I'm looking for a used van, starting something small, moving jobs. Just got laid off. Budget's around $30,000. Not much more." The salesman's eyes flicked up and down Mateo's body, from the scuffed sneakers to the old knee brace to the faded hoodie. His smile widened, like a shark smelling blood in the water. "30's tight, but hey, I like a man with a plan. Let me show you a beauty we just got in. One owner, low miles, it's a steal." He led Mateo past 2 rows of clean-looking Ford Transits, the kinds they used to proudly market as workhorse specials. Stopped at a 2018 Sprinter van tucked between 2 newer models. From the first glance, Mateo spotted it all. Mismatched tires, rust forming around the bottom trim, a cracked rear view, and a faint dent along the passenger side that hadn't been listed anywhere on their website. "Here she is," the salesman beamed. "Only $36,995, but I might be able to work some magic and get you out the door for, like, $35,000 if you move fast." Mateo took a slow step back and squinted. "It looks used." "Used?" the salesman chuckled. "My guy, this is certified pre-loved. Look at that roof height. You can fit couches, ladders, mattresses. This is exactly what you need for moving gigs." "I told you I had 30, Mateo replied evenly, no anger in his voice. "Not 35. The salesman shrugged like a man who had delivered this line 1,000 times before. "Come on, it's practically new. Besides, you're not just buying the van. That price includes taxes, registration, dealer prep fee, mandatory service bundle, roadside coverage, and our GPS anti-theft system. It's standard. Mateo tilted his head. All of that's standard. It is now. Everyone does it. Look, you want something reliable you can't cheap out. You'll be thanking me when your first customer doesn't sue you over a breakdown. There it was, the fear tactic. Mateo's chest tightened. He had once trained salespeople to talk with empathy, to ask about goals, families, the story behind the business. This man hadn't asked a single question, just sold. Do I get a breakdown of all those standard fees? Mateo asked quietly. Sure, the salesman replied quickly, tapping his iPad. I mean, not every single line, but you'll see the totals. Look, if you're serious, we can run your credit, start the financing process, and I can hold the van for you with a $2,000 deposit. Sound fair? I said I'm paying cash, Mateo said more firmly this time. The salesman froze, just for a second. Then the smile returned. Even better. We love cash buyers. Mateo nodded slowly. He didn't respond. He just stared at the van, stared at the cracked mirror, the rust, the missing floor mat in the cargo bay, and as the salesman launched into another rehearsed pitch, Mateo's attention drifted. Not forward, but behind. Because from the open showroom window just 15 feet away, a voice broke through the summer heat. Loud, dismissive, and unmistakably managerial. Sir, those fees aren't optional. They're required on every sale. Dealer compliance, service protection, GPS, the whole package. You want the van, you pay for the package. That's how it works. Mateo froze mid-step. He didn't move, didn't even blink. But inside, something tensed. That voice wasn't pitching. It wasn't negotiating. It was pushing, cornering, scamming. The kind of tactic Mateo had trained his staff never to use. He turned his head slowly, just enough to glimpse through the tinted glass. What he saw on the other side made his stomach twist. He stepped a few feet closer, just enough to see without being seen. The customer sitting across the desk looked to be in his mid-40s. Faded jeans, calloused hands, a sunburned neck that hadn't seen shade in weeks. His shirt was soaked with sweat from a long drive in a truck with no AC. On the floor beside him, a printed copy of the online listing, crumpled slightly at the corners. Across from him sat Derek Strickland, the Fremont dealership manager, confident, loud, leaned back in his chair like a man who had seen the same conversation 100 times and didn't care anymore. But it said $27,500 online, the man said, his voice cracking just slightly. That's why I came all the way down from Stockton. That was the price. Derek barely looked up. Yeah, that's the base. You're not just buying a van, you're buying value protection, GPS security, cargo solutions, and the premium maintenance bundle. Standard with all units. It's non-negotiable. I don't want all that, the man said softly. I just need the van. My tools don't care about GPS or cargo nets. I just need to work. And I need to protect my inventory, Derek snapped. This ain't a flea market. You either want to run a business or you want to sit around asking for handouts. Mateo felt his fist clench by his sides. He forced himself to breathe. This wasn't just salesmanship. This was calculated pressure. No conversation, no empathy. Just a financial chokehold being placed on someone already gasping. I just started my own HVAC service, the man continued, struggling to maintain dignity. This is everything I've got. This van gets me to jobs. I've got clients next week, and I need to look like I know what I'm doing. But I can't swing 35. Not today. Not like this. Derek sighed dramatically and leaned forward. Then maybe you're not ready to be in business. I can't waste a van slot on someone still figuring it out. The words hit harder than any rejection letter. The man's shoulders slumped. His fingers, once wrapped around the listing, loosened. He looked down at his lap, silent. And that silence, that's what broke Mateo. He stepped back from the window, pulse racing, blood in his ears. This wasn't a bad day. This wasn't one bad manager. This was a machine designed to extract, manipulate, and leave behind whatever was broken. Back on the lot, Mateo turned slowly toward the salesman who had been following him like a shadow. The salesman's voice had gone quieter. The confidence he showed earlier, all that slick bravado, was starting to crack. Mateo could see it in the way he shuffled his feet, the way he avoided eye contact, the way he tapped nervously on his iPad without really doing anything. Mateo had said nothing for a full 30 seconds, just stared at the rust on the van's doorframe. The silence made the salesman uneasy. "Look," the young man finally said, glancing over his shoulder to make sure no one was nearby. "I'll level with you, okay? You seem like a straight-up guy. You've got the cash. You're serious. You deserve better than this runaround." Mateo turned his head slowly, said nothing. The salesman took that as permission to keep going. "This lot, we don't always go through all the, formal steps. Some of the guys here, especially Derek, they've got a faster way of moving inventory." "What kind of faster way?" Mateo asked, his voice calm but cold. The salesman looked around again. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Off the books, cash-only deals, no full paperwork. You get the van, we skip the extras. No warranty, no GPS, no prep fee, no finance games. You walk out with a clean ride for less than the system says." "And the title?" Mateo asked, his expression unreadable. "Comes later, usually pushed through another location. It gets registered under a fleet deal or moved through a partner store to dodge the audit flags. Derek handles all of it, says it keeps the numbers clean and the revenue liquid, whatever that means." Mateo stayed silent. The salesman interpreted that silence as interest. "Honestly," he went on, voice shaking slightly, "it's how I made my first big bonus. Guy came in last month, cash in hand. Couldn't afford the full invoice with all the junk fees. Derek said to offer him a backdoor price. We moved the van for 32. Never hit the main books. He called it creative sales. Said everyone at the top knew. That's how we stay competitive." Mateo's jaw tensed, but he forced himself to nod slowly, like someone who was considering it, like a customer. But inside, his blood ran cold. Off-the-books transactions, title manipulation, tax avoidance, lying to customers, and then celebrating it. It wasn't a rogue employee. This was a system, engineered by leadership, approved by Derek, and quietly taught to new sales staff like a secret handshake. The salesman suddenly looked anxious again. "Hey, I'm not trying to scare you off or anything. It's just, if 30 is all you've got, I can talk to Derek. He'll make it happen. It's easier when it's someone like you, Cash buyer, no questions." Mateo looked at him for a long time. His voice was low, controlled. "He's done this before?" "All the time," the salesman admitted. "It's how we move the slow stock." "And the owner knows?" The salesman hesitated. He looked uncomfortable now, really uncomfortable. "I mean, Derek says he does, that the owner only cares about the numbers. Says as long as sales keep climbing, no one's going to rock the boat." Mateo's stomach dropped. They weren't just breaking the law, they were using his name to do it. Mateo said nothing more. No outburst, no reaction. But his hands were shaking slightly as he reached into his hoodie pocket and turned on the voice recorder on his phone, tucking it deep, unseen. He needed proof, because this wasn't going to end with one confrontation. This was bigger. This was rot in the bones of the company he had bled to build, and someone was about to be held accountable. Mateo kept his expression neutral. He gave the salesman a subtle nod, the kind of nod that meant, "Let's do it." "I'll go talk to Derek," the salesman said quietly, already checking over his shoulder. "He'll want to know you're serious." Mateo didn't answer. He just followed. They moved through the showroom past waiting customers and sales desks. The glass doors whispered shut behind them, sealing off the hot, blinding sun outside. Inside, the air conditioning buzzed gently, but the tension was thick. At the back of the showroom, Derek Strickland stood near a sales desk, thumbing through a printed deal packet. He wore a polished blazer, expensive watch, and a smug grin that came too easily. "Derek," the salesman said with a casual tone, "got a guy interested in the Sprinter, cash deal. He wants to move quick. Says 30's all he's got." Derek didn't look up. "Add him to the queue," he muttered, still flipping through the papers. He's good with cash, the salesman added, leaning in. Off the record. That made Derek pause. He looked up, finally locking eyes with Mateo. For a split second, something flickered in his face. Suspicion, recognition, annoyance. You the guy? Derek asked, and stepping forward. Looking to get something done outside the lines? Mateo said nothing. Derek smiled. Wide, confident, practiced. Smart move. You're not the first. We've got ways of handling tight cash buyers. It's cleaner, faster. We don't talk about it, but the right people know how to make it work. He leaned in slightly. You want the Sprinter for 30? No paperwork? No taxes? We float the VIN. Title gets mailed from another store. We call it a transfer. You walk out clean, no questions. Mateo stood silently watching Derek play his game. The air was thick. Every second stretched like a heartbeat waiting to break. If you think this story ends here, you're wrong, because what happens next will change everything. If you want to see the truth exposed, raw, unfiltered, and real, subscribe to Undercover Files now. Because when the truth comes out, nobody can turn away. Stay with us. The moment of reckoning is just seconds away. He extended his hand, palm open. You ready? Mateo didn't move. He reached slowly into his back pocket, pulled out his wallet, then slid an ID card across the desk. Derek frowned, picked it up, then froze. His eyes darted from the card to Mateo's face and back again. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Mateo stared straight at him. His voice was low, controlled, heavy with disappointment. Mateo Alvarez, owner, founder, and the man whose company you just tried to sell off in pieces, under the table. The silence hit like a thunderclap. The salesman beside him paled instantly, taking a half step back like he wanted to vanish. Derek's face turned ashen. The blood drained from it completely. Wait, he stammered. This isn't... You were just trying to pocket profit by skipping legal steps, Mateo said, stepping closer. You were just trying to push a shady sale to the guy who built this company with his own hands. His voice rose, but just slightly, enough that the nearby employees began to turn. You thought I was another desperate man you could squeeze, another customer you could corner. You didn't ask what I needed. You didn't ask what I did. You only asked how fast you could get my cash and how well you could hide it. Derek stuttered again, eyes scanning the showroom like he could somehow escape the moment. I thought you were someone else. I mean, how was I supposed to know? Exactly, Mateo snapped. You didn't know because you didn't care. Not about the customer, not about the van, not about the law. The surrounding employees were quiet now, listening. And if this is what you say to me, Mateo continued, voice sharp with anger, how do you treat the others? The contractors, the single moms, the veterans? How many of them have you lied to, sold fake fees to, told they had no choice? Derek's hands trembled. His words collapsed under him. You don't get it. We need those margins. This industry's cutthroat. No, Mateo said coldly. You need integrity. You need accountability. And you've shown neither. He turned to the stunned salesman beside him. Get him out of here, now. Mr. Alvarez, please. You're done, Derek. Mateo stood in the middle of the showroom, eyes scanning the stunned, silent faces of his staff. If you've been part of this, if you've lied, inflated prices, pushed fake fees, or sold vans under the table, you need to come forward, today. His voice was steady, not angry, but final. I will find out, but if you want a second chance, this is it, right now. No one moved at first. Then the first man stepped back from his desk, grabbed his jacket, and walked out without a word. Then another, and another. 6 employees in total, gone in silence. 3 others stayed behind and confessed. They talked about the pressure, the scripts, the bonuses that came with every dirty deal. One of them, a young woman, began crying. She had only been with the company for 3 months. They said it was normal, she whispered, that I had to do it to survive here. Mateo placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Survival isn't the same as betrayal. You still have a choice, and today, you made the right one. And then, Jasmine stepped forward. She was in her early 20s, nervous but composed. Her voice trembled slightly, but her eyes stayed locked on Mateo's. "I warned a customer last week, told him not to buy the overpriced Sprinter. Derek found out. He yelled at me in front of everyone, said I was soft, said I didn't belong here." Mateo's gaze didn't waver. "He was wrong," he said, his voice softening. "You're exactly who we need." He turned to the remaining staff. "From now on, honesty isn't a suggestion here. It's the policy, and Jasmine's going to help make sure of it." He didn't sit in meetings or shake hands at corporate events. He sat at a folding table in the break room with a phone, a spreadsheet, and a list of every single customer who had been overcharged, misled, or manipulated in the past 12 months. And one by one, he called them all, personally, not from a hidden number, not from a company line, from his own phone. "Mrs. Dorsey, this is Mateo Alvarez. I'm the founder of Velocity Vans. I heard you were charged a $4,800 warranty package you never agreed to. I'm calling to say I'm sorry, and to let you know that money is already on its way back to you. Mr. Chen, you bought a van listed at $32,000 and walked out paying $39,000. That's not okay. You'll find a refund check in your mailbox by Friday." Some hung up, thinking it was a scam. Others wept. One man stayed silent for 10 full seconds before whispering, "I thought no one ever noticed. I thought I was the only one who got tricked." "You weren't," Mateo replied, "but you will be the last." He reworked dozens of loans, refunded thousands in fees, repossessed and replaced 2 faulty vans at his own expense. And he didn't stop there. He tracked down Luis Santiago, the HVAC technician who'd been humiliated and scammed right in front of him. Mateo showed up at his doorstep, not with paperwork, but with a van, a better one, clean, reliable, no strings. "No charge," Mateo said simply, handing over the keys. "This company owes you an apology." Luis stood frozen. His lips trembled. He shook his head in disbelief. "I thought I got scammed, again. I thought I was stupid." "You're not," Mateo told him. "You were brave enough to start something on your own. That's all I ever did too." Mateo created a new department, Client Justice, to review every contract and make things right. Jasmine was promoted to head of customer integrity, leading the charge for honesty. New signs appeared at every store. "If you're pressured, call this number. It goes straight to the CEO." Mateo reopened the original garage where Velocity began, turning it into a training center for anyone willing to work hard and earn a second chance. Because at Velocity Vans, it's not just about selling vehicles. It's about restoring trust, one customer at a time. If you want to hear more real stories where the truth comes to light and justice is served, make sure to subscribe to Undercover Files.